How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On The Ball and welcome back to another review of the Premier League. This time it is for game week 10 and me and Sim do have scoring between us. Sim is leading by 10 points, 142 to 132, and the way the scoring works, it is 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result, and at the end of the episode we pick a star man or review a star man, and it's 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. And let's get into the weekend's action, starting with a London derby at Selhurst Park, which Spurs won 2-1. Sim went for 2-0. Very unlucky not to get the 5-pointer with a goal that really should have got ruled out by Crystal Palace at the end. I went for 3-0, but we do both gain 1 point for this one.
Do I get an apology from the PGMOL?
Well, you got to wait for it. You should demand one.
I should demand an apology, 100%.
You should demand one, to be fair. But look, I think it wasn't the greatest game of football, wasn't the greatest performance from Spurs, but it was a dominant display and it was a professional display.
It's a performance that you wouldn't be surprised of if it was like a top team who's challenging for the title, who sometimes on away days they have an off day, they're not having the best game, but what they do very well is they keep things tight, and then when they need to show their quality, they do. And I think that's exactly what we did. Yeah, it was a bit of a slog. It was a bit of a bitty game, to be honest. Crystal Palace made things very difficult for Spurs, and they weren't really, I think in the first half, must have been the first time this season Spurs didn't have a shot on target in any half. And I think that goes to show the struggles. But one thing that just doesn't maybe get taken into account is every game this season, Tottenham, not every game, but many times this season, Tottenham have been struggling, and they've been asked questions and they found answers and they found solutions. So that's exactly what they did in the second half. In the moments that they did score, the first goal, obviously a bit of luck, but again, good team move, and it gets an own goal. Second goal was a brilliant team goal. And even though it only happened maybe once in the game, they showed that even you can keep them quiet for however like an hour, but they're going to show their quality at some point, and that's where the second goal came. And I don't think anyone can really complain about Tottenham getting the 3 points in this one.
No, not at all. I think Spurs were by far the better side on the day. Crystal Palace had pretty much nothing going forward, and when they did get forward, Vicario was brilliant, and the defence, Kuti, Romero, Mickey van de Ven, Pape Matar, all these three players were proper standout performers on the day, and it showed with the chances that Palace did have in the end and the chances that we had. Like you say, like the goals that we did score were high quality. Even the first one, which obviously it was an own goal, but if he didn't touch it, Richarlison's probably there at the back post to finish it off, and you would have said that was a really nice team goal. So another 3 points for Spurs. Spurs did go 5 points clear, but now it's reverted back to what it was beforehand. But let's move on to another London derby in Chelsea against Brentford. It finished 2-0 to Brentford at Stamford Bridge. Sim went for 1-1. I went for 1-0 to Chelsea. It's hard. I mean, it's just the same thing with Chelsea every week, isn't it? Every single week. Play really well in the first half, don't take their chances, and then fall to a defeat or a draw in the second half. And this was no different against the Brentford side, who couldn't buy a win before this game, and then they've gone to Stamford Bridge and taken all 3 points.
Yeah, I think it's kind of back down to earth a bit for Chelsea after some really good results in recent weeks, drawing against Arsenal. They beat Burnley. They also beat Fulham at Craven Cottage as well. So it looked like they may be turning a corner, but I think this has been a big kind of step backwards. I know Brentford are never easy, and it's always tough to play against, but I think the fact they're suffering from exactly the same problems as they were earlier on shows that maybe the upturn in form wasn't going to last potentially. I think Brentford did what they always do, which is be very compact, very solid defensively. Bit lucky in the first half not to concede, but again in the second half they came into the game a lot more, and it wasn't a surprise when they scored actually, because they were really getting into the game at that point. They were really starting to create chances. They got the goal, and then after that, I have to say I was disappointed in Chelsea. After Brentford scored, Chelsea didn't really threaten to that much. They had a big chance from Jackson, but apart from that, like Chelsea really struggled to carve open those opportunities. Then obviously Brentford sealed it with the second goal. And now Chelsea, after 10 games, they sit 11 points off top four. I know it's early days, but that's a big gap. Tottenham they currently 15 points off Spurs. That could be and Spurs,
15 is massively significant.
Spurs play them. 14 points, and Spurs play them next as well. So who knows? That could be 17 points in a week's time. I mean, as much as people want to give it, obviously people will give it time. I still think they're playing well in spurts, but that is a significant gap to top four, and it's almost becoming insurmountable at this stage that they're even going to get there, because is that gap going to get any smaller? Are they going to hit that form that they need to do to close that gap? It's becoming questionable.
Yeah, they got to be aiming, I think, now for like 5th or 6th, to be honest, in the league. I think
10 points or 5th.
I know it's 10 points, but it's still a long, long way to go in this game. You know, if they go and beat Villa, that gap diminishes. I don't know, have they played Villa yet?
Yeah, they
this
lost
season?
to Villa.
They've lost to Villa already. So yeah, I mean, it's a tall order and a hard task, but they finished 12th last season.
The problem is, they haven't even hit their most difficult run yet. The run they've had in the first 7 games has been the easier run, and now they're going to have to face all the big boys. Or some say that would be easier for them. Maybe they up their game against the big boys, which has proven to show recently. But the problem is they've been playing well. They haven't been winning. They played well against Arsenal, but they drew. They played well against Liverpool, but they drew. They didn't win the game, so they need to be winning these games to catch up the points.
Yeah, but I do think at some point, maybe it won't happen this season. Maybe this season is just a bedding in period kind of season. I kind of feel like, I've said it many a time, like performances are going in the right direction for Chelsea. Results are still not going in the right direction. I think it's only a matter of time until results start to change.
But people
and
said
I think
the same
they'll be a
last season.
serious team. Yeah, but last season, yeah, it's true. They did say it last season, but this year they've got Pochettino, they've got a host of new players. You're not going to kind of bed in all these players in one go. You're going to need time to turn this around. It's not going to be an overnight thing. And that's what it's proving to be at the moment.
Yeah. The only difference for me so far is it's Pochettino instead of Potter, and we'll see where if it's at this stage, I would say it's quite realistic that they could be in the same position in this season as when they sacked Potter.
Yeah, they could be, but I kind of feel though like there is a bit more of a positive vibe around Chelsea now than there was when Potter was there, and I feel like it's more likely that Poch will get things right than a Graham Potter.
Maybe no, I agree, but maybe now there's a positive vibe because we're in October. But if I don't know when Potter got sacked, was it March? If in March they're in the same position as they were last season, will there still be this positive vibe? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, but like I keep saying over and over again, the only smart thing to do here is stick with Pochettino. That is the only smart thing to do. Anything else is just putting their project backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards. They need to stick with the manager. Pochettino, we all know he's a good manager. We all know he's going to get it right at some point. Just look at the start he had at Tottenham as well. All you need to do is take that as a comparison. You're going from a club who are used to winning things with an experienced team, with players that have been there and done it over and over again. They've refreshed that with a completely new whole squad, not even just the starting 11, a whole new squad, a very young squad. They need to give it time.
I agree with you. I don't disagree. I'm just saying they sacked Potter last season in very similar circumstances, so who knows what will happen.
Yeah, I do kind of get the feeling, though, that Bowley maybe would have learnt from that Potter sacking, and hopefully, well, not hopefully, because I want them to probably sack Pochettino and for it to go the other way. But I do think he would have learnt from that mistake, and I think he would recognise that as a mistake that he did last season. So look, we'll see where it goes, but let's hope it fails for another weekend, that's for sure. Moving on to Bournemouth against Burnley. Sim went for 3-2 to Bournemouth. I went for 2-1 to Burnley. It did finish 2-1 to Bournemouth at the end of the day. A really good result for Bournemouth in their first win of the season under Iraola. We all said that he's got one more game to prove himself, and maybe this result has given him a bit more life or a bit more time in the Bournemouth job. Burnley, a bit disappointing from them. They did score right at the end to make it 2-2, and he was just a head offside. Very, very tight decision, but I think it was a deserved victory for Bournemouth here.
Yeah, it seems so. And Philip Billing with catching the keeper off guard for the winner as well. Really good goal, and it was good reward for a really good second half performance from Bournemouth. And as well, they're 1-0 down, and you know at that point you got to say he must have been fearing the worst. 1-0 down in the game, a must-win game for him, and if they would have not turned it around, that probably would have been it. For him, and he probably wouldn't have been sacked. So massive result for him, and they did turn it around. They did deserve it. It was a really good performance, but unfortunately it's only Burnley, I have to say. So as much as it's a good result, if they don't follow, I mean, they got Man City next, you can't really expect them to get a result there, but if they don't follow that up by getting some more results on the board, no one's going to look at this result and say it was a turning point. They're just going to say it was a good moment and what was already a terrible tenure. So he needs to follow this up with more results. Otherwise, he's still going to be on the chopping block. And I have to say, I'm getting very worried for Burnley. They just don't seem like, if you can't go to Bournemouth away and they got outplayed, to be honest. They were the worst team. And that's got to be very worrying, considering how much excitement there was from them coming up from the Championship and how well they played, the style of football they were playing. They've just been they beat Luton, but other than that, they've been a bit of a disaster. One other point in their first 10 games. I don't think they're going to sack Kompany because I really think they're big fans of him, and I reckon Burnley are the kind of team they've shown it with Sean Dyche that even if they look like they're going to go down, they'll stick with him. I think they did that with Dyche before, where Dyche took him down and then came back up with them, didn't he?
So I don't know if that's a smart move though.
Why not?
I really don't think it's a smart move because I think that if they go down and then come back up in 2 years' time playing the same football, they're just going to go back down again. They need
but that's not. But that's exactly what happened with Sean Dyche, and he came back and they were still playing the same football. And then they got in Europe, and they played really well. So I can see Burnley.
Kind of football. Sean Dyche and the way the football that he plays is much more geared up for safety in the Premier League, where this Kompany ball, it's great on the eye, and fine, it's good for a team maybe trying to get Europe or mid-table or even the top half of the Premier League. But I don't think you're going to survive playing this football with the players that they have.
Yeah, it depends how long term they see it with Kompany. Do they see him here right now? Is he going to be here next season? Is he going to be in a few years' time? Is it a long term project with Kompany, or is it a kind of thing like he's just going to show his chops at Burnley, then be off once a better offer comes? Because if that's the case, then they probably should sack him. But if Kompany is willing to stick around for a bit, it might be worth sticking with him. Because Sean Dyche was there through thick and thin, and they held with him for a long time. So I think that's the kind of manager, that's the kind of project Burnley like a long-term thing. But who knows what Kompany's thoughts are right now. But right now, is he going to get a better job, how they're performing in the Premier League? Who knows? Nothing's guaranteed.
I think he could get a better job, to be honest. And I think... he showed his worth last year in the Championship, winning it with flying colours. This year with Burnley, they're just too naive. He needs to figure out different ways to play his football, not just one way, because you're not going to stay up and you're not going to get consistent results playing this way with that Burnley side. It's just not going to happen.
But how many managers have won the Championship really well and then struggled in the Premier League and not got a better job? It's happened a few times.
Yeah, of course it's happened before. So but I think also...
nothing guaranteed for Kompany.
It's true, but at the end of last season, he was being touted for the Spurs job. He was saying he's the next in line for the Man City job and all this kind of stuff.
Maybe people were getting too ahead of themselves.
I kind of feel, though, like if he was at one of those clubs, if he was Tottenham manager, if he was a Man City manager, people would be holding him in much more higher regard right this moment in time, because the football that he plays would be more kind of adept for playing for those clubs. But I don't think he should be managing Burnley in the Premier League, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's definitely struggling at the moment, and I just don't see where the points are coming from. They're just too easy to play against. The problem is when they go toe to toe with the team trying to attack them, they're not good enough to score goals. And then when they're playing a more pragmatic team, they're not good enough. Their forward play isn't good enough to break them down, and then they're too open at the back and they get counter attacked so easily. So it's like any team they play against, they're just getting beat at the moment.
Yeah, he needs to find solutions because he kind of is just not changing it up for anyone and just getting beat every week.
And the problem, if you're not beating Bournemouth's like the perfect team for them, a team who also play open but are not very good. So if you can't beat them, then you're in real trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about a team in trouble. Let's move on to this next game. Arsenal against Sheffield United. It finished 5-0 to Arsenal on the day. Sim went 4-0. I went 2-0. Sheffield United 1 point so far this season after the first 10 games. Now, when you're talking about trying to beat Derby's record, they are definitely on track for it right now after 10 games with only 1 point. Arsenal, on the other hand, very, I would say impressive, but you expected it anyway. Everyone expected them to really wipe the floor with Sheffield United, and they got that goal in the first half with Eddie Nketiah. He ended up scoring a hat-trick within an hour, and the game was done pretty much after that first goal went in. You thought Sheffield United will open up a little bit, and that's exactly what happened. Fabio Vieira gets a penalty. Tomiyasu gets a goal in the last minute, and it was an absolute onslaught from Arsenal at the Emirates this weekend. Yeah,
it's not really a surprise how dominant they were, but Sheffield United, whatever happens, whether the games are close or the games are open, they're just losing. When the games are close, they look like they could get points, but again, they end up losing 2-1, usually with a late goal or whatever, like they did against City, Spurs, and Man United. And then they've also had absolute batterings: 8-0 against Newcastle, now 5-0 in this game as well. Lost 3-1 to Fulham
as well.
They conceded 3 goals to Fulham not so long ago, and this is a Fulham team who really struggled to score goals. So they look doomed, absolutely doomed. The problem with Sheffield United is they've got like some decent forward players in McBurney and Archer, but these aren't players you can rely on to score, 10 Premier League goals even over a course of a season. So they need to be super solid defensively if they're going to have any chance of staying up, and they need to be like a Burnley, like nicking points here and there, getting 1-0 wins when they can. But at the moment, their defense is just so open, and it's just too easy to play against, and they're getting battered. They're conceding way too many goals, and even when games are tight, they're not good enough to hold on to results. They're conceding late goals as well. So I don't know, maybe they need to change the manager at the moment, even though, again, he's done a great job last season. No one expected him to get promoted, and they ended up getting a late charge and getting promoted at the end of the day. So big credit to him, but they look doomed at the moment. I can't see them turning it around.
This sounds to me like a Big Sam job. It really does.
Getting back in.
That's the only one. Like, I think they can turn. Who else can they turn to apart from Big Sam right now?
Get Big Sam in. I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question. Who's the firefighter who's available? Yeah, pretty much only Big Sam. Can't think of anyone else. Adam Pardew, is he available?
When's the last time Adam Pardew's been in the job? But look, the reality is for Sheffield United, they are 5 points behind Bournemouth, who are about to sack their manager. So things ain't looking great for Sheffield United, that's for sure.
At this point as well, but we haven't covered Luton yet, but I think 17th is Bournemouth, and then the next one is Forest, who are 16th, 10 points. So there's a 4-point gap now between 16th and 17th, and all of a sudden we might be looking at this could be the bottom 4 for the whole season.
Yeah, it looks that way, and we all kind of said it in the previews, like these teams that have been promoted just don't look strong enough, and it's working out that way. They didn't sign well enough, all three of these teams, to be honest. They've come into the Premier League with championship squads, and it's showing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, last game on the Saturday was Wolves against Newcastle. It finished 2-2 at Molineux. Sim went for 1-0 to Wolves. I went for 1-1, so I gain a point for this one. Look, Newcastle went 1-0 up early with Callum Wilson. Mario Lemina leveled it up with 10 minutes after that. Callum Wilson gets a really dodgy penalty on the stroke of half time. What did you make out of that penalty?
Yeah, I thought obviously the ref gave it, didn't he?
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit dodgy. I thought they were a bit lucky to get it because I think Hwang gave it away, didn't he? I don't know if he meant it, but I guess VAR thought there was enough doubt just to stick with the on-field decision, but I think they can feel aggrieved. I don't think it was a penalty in a million years. Yeah, I think they can feel aggrieved.
Really, it was a tough call for Wolves, in my opinion, who played really well in this game, really well. And Gary O'Neill, again, proving doubters wrong week after week. And Hwang, on his unbelievable form for Wolves this year, levels it up with 20 minutes to go. But the sad story of the day is Pedro Neto leaves the pitch on a stretcher.
He said he'll be out for 2 weeks.
Oh, is that it? 2 weeks? Oh, that's all right then, because like I really feared the worst when I saw him go off on a stretcher after the form he's been on this season. I mean, Gary O'Neill has really got the best out of Pedro Neto, the best out of Hwang, and where are they sitting in the league?
12th at the moment.
12th. So look, you can't fault Gary O'Neill at the moment.
Doing very well, and they're playing very well, I have to say, against these bigger teams. They're all giving him a very, very tough game. Neto's going to be a big miss, but hopefully for Wolves, he only missed the one game, and then he'll be back after the international break. But really great. Again, really a great performance from Wolves on the counter-attacking. Newcastle knew where to play the game, and they played it pretty perfectly. Neto was all again causing trouble for Newcastle time and time again. Newcastle looked a bit leggy after their midweek game, I would say. Obviously, they got a couple of goals and not great goals, but Wilson, 2 strikers finishes, one from the spot and one inside the box, which he should have probably scored first time. But they weren't at their best for sure. And this is a result. It's going to be these kind of results after European games when they go away from home against tough opposition. If they can't consistently be getting these wins, that's probably what's going to cost them maybe a top 4 finish this season. But they're still there and thereabouts. They're still on 17 points. There's a 6-point gap now between them and top 4 though.
And it's kind of like when we were making our pre-season predictions, we said this about Newcastle, and it's coming to fruition now, isn't it?
A bit, yeah. We said they're going to struggle to juggle because they got good players and a good squad, but whether they can do it playing their first 11 twice a week and consistently getting these results. We'll have to wait and see, because it takes a really good team to do that. I just don't know if they're at that level yet, but they're still a good team.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like they lack the funds to buy some players in January and in the summer.
True. Also true.
Let's move on to West Ham against Everton, which finished 1-0 to Everton at the London Stadium. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 2-1 to West Ham. And another classic Dyche performance for Everton, 1-0 at the London Stadium. Dominic Calvert-Lewin carry on his really good form, and West Ham are going to be utterly disappointed with that result.
Yeah, after playing, I think losing in midweek as well,
yeah.
Getting beat by Olympiacos in midweek, they thought they'd maybe come back into the game. Mohamed Kudus, I think, got his first start in the Premier League as well, so it'd be very disappointing that they lacked kind of any sort of ingenuity of this game. I think they got dyked. Yeah, they got dyked. Dyche knows how that West Ham want you to come at them and leave space for them, and Everton just basically refused to play their game. And in fact, they played how West Ham would like to play, and West Ham probably struggled massively against it. I think Everton played the game to perfection. Really, they got the all-important goal. They I think hit the bar late on. It could have been 2-0. West Ham put some pressure on, but they didn't really have any ideas to break down a very stubborn Everton team. And Sean Dyche away from home this season, they beat Brentford away from not so long ago. They've definitely been a lot better away from home, maybe because they're naturally a bit more defensive and they're better on the counter attack against teams who are a bit more open at home, and that's maybe playing into their hand. So very good win for Everton away from home at West Ham. But West Ham, look, still having a good season. I don't think they'll get too downbeat by it. They're still in the top half, I think.
They're ninth.
They're ninth, which is pretty decent for West Ham. So as
3
long as
points off sixth.
Not terrible, but just going to be a bit frustrating. But we always know that the West Ham are a good team, but they're never going to, consistently be getting results to really challenge the top four or anything like that. They can maybe challenge the top six, but even then, I think that's going to be a bit of a stretch, even though they're still there and thereabouts in that race. But massive win for Everton when it comes to them, just trying to get away from that bottom three.
I feel like with West Ham, they're like a top number 9 away from being a really good side. When you're looking at this team that they played, Bowen on the right, Kudus as the number 10, Paqueta on the left, Antonio up top, Edson Alvarez and James Ward-Prowse in the midfield. I mean, that looks like a serious side.
I think a top number 9 and a different manager.
Yeah, maybe.
I would say.
Maybe
as much as I think Moyes is a good manager, don't get me wrong, he's done really well. And to do what he's done at West Ham has been great. But if they really want to kick on and challenge these top teams, I just don't know if he plays or plays in a way that's going to get sustainable enough to get consistent results. I just don't know.
I completely agree with that, to be honest. But when you're looking at the personnel that they have,
it's a great squad.
It's coming together, isn't it? In terms of like playing side,
really is. Like Paqueta was wanted by City. Ward-Prowse has been a great player in the Premier League for many years. I'm a big fan of Kudus. I think Bowen didn't have a great season last season, but he's back to his best this season. Like they got a really
Alvarez
solid.
Looks really good as well.
Yeah, they got a really solid team there. So. I just think with a better manager, they could. I think like squad-wise, that if you take their first 11, that is comparable with Brighton, Villa, and Newcastle. I really think
100%. But let's move on to Villa Park. Aston Villa beat Luton by 3-1. Sin went for 3-0. You must have been gutted with that own goal because it was such a terrible own goal to concede, going off the back of Martinez. I went for 4-0 and probably. I mean, Aston Villa could have scored way more than 3 in this game, to be honest. In the first half, it was a bit similar to the way Spurs and Luton started the game. Aston Villa just pumping Luton without getting too much joy, but they kept persisting. They got the goals in the end, and it was very much a deserved victory for Aston Villa. Yeah, no shocks, no surprises there. Pretty much what you expect from this kind of game. 12th home win in a row for Aston Villa as well, so they just keep on going at home. Really, really impressive, and they're really showing their credentials to maybe be in the top 4 race this season, because they're really consistently getting results at the moment, which is impressive. But in this game, they dominated pretty much from start to finish. Luton really struggled to hurt Villa at all. As you say, the own goal came from a bit of a bizarre own goal from Carlos, which was really unnecessary at the time. But it was all about how many, not if Villa were going to win. And Watkins missed a series of chances. Diaby missed chances. They brought Leon Bailey on at half-time, and he really helped just have that creativity to make sure they create enough chances to win the game. And it was a really solid win for Aston Villa. No complaints there. Luton,
Didn't really expect anything from them in this game. They didn't really do anything as well, and pretty much as expected. The only thing is, it probably should have been, I think, that scoreline flatters Luton a bit.
Yeah, massively. Moving on to Brighton against Fulham, which finished 1-1 at the Amex. Sim went for 1-0 to Brighton. I went for 3-1 to Brighton. And Brighton are going to be very disappointed with this result, to be honest, because it was pretty much all Brighton for that first half. They go in 1-0 with Evan Ferguson, and you're thinking, all right, second half, Brighton are going to kick on here and get some more goals. But João Palhinha equals it up with 25 minutes to go, and Brighton just could not seem to break down Fulham after that.
Yeah, again, Brighton, after playing in midweek, they beat Ajax 2-0 in midweek in a very impressive game. And they just looked, again, apart from in the first half, they were dominant and looking sharp. But in the second half, they just did look a bit leggy. It looked like it was catching up with them a bit. And Fulham did have a period in that second half where they were on top and they gained control of the game. They scored while they were in control. Really nice goal for João Palhinha, showing both sides of his game again, how good he is off the ball, and showed he can play on the ball as well with a really nice finish inside the box. And then Brighton, Fulham obviously came for a point that once they got the goal, they sat back and soaked up pressure and made sure they were difficult to play against. And Brighton just struggled. They struggled massively to break them down, and they looked tired near the end of that game. And again, European football again catching up with them a bit, because I do believe if they weren't playing in Europe in midweek, they'd probably win this game a lot more comfortably, because how they played in that first half, if they could have kept that level of performance, I think they would have won this game comfortably. But they didn't get the second goal in the first half. They only went in 1-0, and when you leave a game open like that, especially when you've got tired legs from Europe, the results in the balance. That's what happened, and they got the draw. And again, I think it's proof of European football catching up with these middling teams who got European football last season, but maybe were hoping to kick on and have an outside chance of looking at the top four. But it seems like European football is going to hamper that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, De Zerbi's spoken about it, hasn't he? That Brighton aren't really used to this 2 games a week with European football, and it's showing. Next up, we'll go to Anfield. 3-0. Liverpool beat Nottingham Forest, and me and Sim both predicted 3-0 as well. So our 5-pointer is wasted on a result that we both picked the same. But look, this could have been more than 3-0, to be honest. It was an absolute demolition job from Liverpool. Gakpo did score in the last knockings of the game to make it 4, but it was ruled out by VAR. But look, what can I say? 2 assists for Szoboszlai on the day. He's really starting to make an impact as well. Salah gets his goal with 10 minutes to go. Could have been a lot more, though. Yeah,
this is one team, though, that European football doesn't seem to be affecting them. I guess they're used to it at Liverpool, European football week in, week out. And it was a resounding victory. Forest, they tried to kind of catch him out with Elanga on the counter-attack, but he kept getting caught offside. It was pure control from Liverpool, really high line and looking inventive, looking great in the forward line as well. I think Núñez getting a goal and assist. He's, again, starting to get regular goal contributions. Salah getting a goal late on after a big mistake from Matt Turner. It was just a resounding victory. It was total domination. Forest barely got involved in the game, and Liverpool again looking so strong, especially at home, just completely wiping the floor with Forest. And they are really looking like they're getting back to their best. They really do. Liverpool. It was a really great performance again.
Yeah, albeit against the Nottingham Forest side, who are just not on great form at the moment as well. So you do expect them to kind of have these performances and have these results against these kind of teams at Anfield.
Well, Forest can be very difficult to play against on occasion. They can be very... Steve Cooper, especially when they play away from home, they can be very solid defensively and they can be hard to break down, but Liverpool just had no trouble doing it.
Yeah. And last but not least, we'll go to the Manchester derby, which finished 3-0 to Manchester City at Old Trafford. Sim went for 3-1. I went for 2-1. And you know what? 3-0 absolutely flattered them, to be honest, because this could have been in the 6s and 7s from Man City, in my opinion. Man United had absolutely nothing in this game. Man City absolutely ran riot at Old Trafford. And I don't know what Erik ten Hag was doing, to be honest, this game, because you're 1-0 down at half-time. You take off Sevilla and Amrabat and bring on Mason Mount. You have no defensive players in that midfield against this Man City side. I mean, that is just asking for it, in my opinion. Absolutely asking for it. And it came out after the game that was a tactical substitution and he wasn't injured. And I'm thinking, how long does Ten Hag have left?
Well, it was absolutely atrocious yesterday. I have to say, I feel for him a bit because in the first half, I did feel like it was a bit more even. Although, don't get me wrong, Man City were dominant still, and probably deserved to go in at halftime 1-0 up. But it was a bit more even. United showed a bit of ability to counterpunch them. Højlund was getting in a few good positions. McTominay made a couple of, got a shot made, forced to save out Edison as well. And it was a bit more of an even game, but that penalty went against them. And I think I have to say, did I think it was a penalty? Yes. Is that a penalty I think VAR should be giving? No. I think if the referee gives it on the field, I got no complaints. But VAR should not be getting involved in that decision. The VAR should not be going back and saying, "Oh, there was a bit of a tug there, so you've got to go to the screen." I think if VAR are getting involved in that, I think there should be a penalty in every game in the Premier League. I think, in my opinion, because that happens in every set piece, pretty much in every Premier League game.
They'd be giving like 6 or 7 penalties a game.
It's ridiculous. So I think if the referee sees it, I got no complaints with the referee saying, "Okay, I'm pointing to the spot because I've seen a tug." But VAR shouldn't. I don't think that's a clear and obvious penalty. It's a bit of a pullback, yes, by Højlund, but I think VAR. I don't like VAR getting involved in that penalty. I think Man United could feel a bit hard done by that the VAR went back, but I don't think Højlund could complain because he did hold Rodri back and it was a penalty. But second half, it was absolutely one-way traffic. They didn't even have the ability to counter-attack Man United. It was complete control from Man City. Obviously, Haaland got the second goal which was actually a carbon copy of a chance he had in the first half, but he actually changed his approach. First half, he went for a power header, which went straight on, and this time he kind of dinked his header a lot smarter. In a smarter finish, and it was a good goal from him. And then obviously he got the assist for the third one for Foden, and it was just it was at a counter really. They were attacking. Man United had no answer, and they had no form of attack as well. And considering last season, I remember they won at Old Trafford against Man City in what was a really good victory. I think this game they were maybe they'll feel like City just took mercy on them, because if it was the result what it should have been, it could have been very similar to what Ollie had when he lost 5-0 at home to Liverpool. What was like a game where everyone kind of stood up and said, okay, maybe it's not happening here with Ollie. And if that would have happened here, maybe the knives would have been out a bit quicker. But Ten Hag has got to be under serious pressure at the moment. I know people are kind of blaming the Glazers again. I see Gary Neville not really, putting pressure on Ten Hag. He's blaming the Glazers, but at the end of the day, a lot of the signings are his signings. That they've given him control, so he's got to take responsibility. Gary Neville's biggest complaint has been Glazers have been too accommodating of Ten Hag. That's his biggest complaint. They said they shouldn't allow the Antony signing and the Casemiro signing and all these different signings. But it's like, well, Ten Hag these are the signings he's picked. So like what I don't think you can blame the Glazers for Antony turning out how he's been. And that also at the end of the game there, they just tried to take lumps out of City at the end. Bruno was trying to take lumps out of them. Antony came on and just basically doing his best Lamella impression, trying to kick everyone he can. And that's where they've got to at the moment. It's like a lower league team. Yeah,
I know. And it's if you're a Man United fan, you've got to be extremely worried about the trajectory of the football club. Not just this season, but for a while now, to be honest. And they showed a graphic at the end of the Ten Hag signing so far this season. I mean, Antony, 85 million. Højlund, 72 million. Casemiro, 70 million. Mason Mount, 60 million. Lisandro Martinez, 56. Onana, 47. Malacia, 14. This Turkish goalkeeper, 4. And then the free transfers and loans like Eriksson, Evans, Reguilon, Amrabat, Wakehorst, and Sabitzer. I mean, what is going on at Man United? What is going on with Ten Hag? I said a couple of months back, well, about a month and a half ago, I think I said that Ten Hag ain't going to last this season, and I think he'll be gone by Christmas, January time. And I think it's getting more and more likely that that's going to happen, to be honest. And Roy Keane was speaking after the game about the captaincy and Bruno Fernandes, and I agree with every single word that he said, because Bruno is not acting like a captain at the moment. Last season at Anfield, when they got battered 7-0, that is not what you want to see a captain do. Yesterday, just kicking lumps and complaining and throwing your arms around, that is not what you want to see your captain do. And everything from top to bottom just seems so wrong at Manchester United at the moment.
I think these quotes from Ten Hag have to be the most concerning thing if you're a Man United fan. He was talking, I don't know why, I thought people would have made a bigger story out of this, but he was talking to Viaplay in Holland about after the game. He was asked, when will you be able to play the same football in Man United that you showed at Ajax? And he said, never. We will never play that football because those are different players. This is also not why I came here. We are playing different football than I showed at Ajax because I have to, because I can't play the same way. The players decide how you play. Ajax has a very typical and characteristic style of play. With Man United, I'll always show different football. I did so last year as well. We play much more direct here because I have to play for that here. And that has to be so concerning. For if you're a Man United fan and you're just waiting, for Ten Hag ball to kick in, and then you're hearing that, it's like, well, if this is if this is the best he can serve up after a year or nearly 18 months, like, what's the point of carrying it on?
I'm sorry, that's a disgrace. Those comments are a disgrace from Ten Hag. 14 signings he's brought in the 18 months that he's been at Manchester United. That's more than enough time to implement your own players and implement your own style of play. And he's saying he can't do that and it will never happen.
Postecoglou done it in a few months.
There is no point keeping him in the job after those comments. I'm sorry, there just isn't. There just isn't.
And but I'm not saying different players. What about Anthony, Lisandro Martinez, and all these players he's brought in, and he's saying he can't play the football.
Exactly,
it's crazy. And Postecoglou, I know they had like a few changes, but it's not like the whole. I mean, there's been a lot of changes at Tottenham. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like it's taken that. Even without those changes, I'm sure we'll still be trying to play that football. You know what I mean? That we're not going to win. He's not going to compromise just because of the players.
Yeah.
And to hear that Ten Hag is doing that, it's got to be very concerning.
Very. And look, I think the comments I made a month and a half ago about Ten Hag getting sacked, you seemed surprised at it at the time. But, I mean, he needs to get sacked at this point, I think.
Yeah, if that's going to be his mentality, I don't blame any Man United fan for wanting him gone.
Yeah. Well, let's finish off on the star man. Sim went for Big Dom Solanke, no goals, no assists on the day. I went for Moussa Diaby of Bayer Leverkusen, of Aston Villa, who got a goal and no assists. Could have been 2 goals, but it was given as an own goal. So we end up this week with a 5-point gap. I've cut the gap in half. We'll see where we go next week, but we finish off on 152 to Sim, 147 to me. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.